And I'm Michael Hill. Coming up today on the Brian Lair Show, it's 100 years of 100 things, the history of how indigenous people's stories have been told and recognized. We'll have that conversation and more on the Brian Lair Show. That's this morning at 10 right here on WNYC and live streaming at WNYC.org. 46 with rain out there right now. Rain the first half of the day, which means it's going to rain on the parade right now. A high near 51 and gusty on this Thanksgiving. Then tomorrow we begin to cool off, sunny in mid-40s, and then Saturday all the way through next week, high temperatures right around 40 or just below 40. It's 6:51. Thanks for tuning in this morning.
Support for WNYC comes from City Harvest, who are on the road every day rescuing 77 million pounds of nutritious food a year for New Yorkers in need, transforming surplus food into sustenance and sustainability. That's how they feed good. More at cityharvest.org.
On the next Fresh Air, for Thanksgiving Day, we feature one of our favorite interviews of the year with the beloved cellist Yo-Yo Ma. He brought his cello to the interview and played music that's inspired him from his childhood to today. Join us. Weekdays at 2 on 93.9 FM, AM 820, or live stream it at WNYC.org.
I'll take the leg meat with a side of Treasury bonds.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by the John Templeton Foundation, funding interdisciplinary research and catalyzing conversations to inspire awe and wonder. Learn more at templeton.org.
From Marketplace, I'm Sabri Benishore in for David Brancaccio. Happy Thanksgiving. Whilst we gorge on turkey, the U.S. government gorges on debt. The U.S. national debt has reached just over $36 trillion, according to the Treasury Department. Most people would agree there's probably something in that to cut. The question is how. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer joins us now. Good morning, Nancy.
Good morning.
Why is it so hard to cut government spending?
Well, Sabri, part of the problem is the way the federal government spends its money. About 2/3 of the federal budget is mandatory spending, and that's for things like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Henrietta Treyz is co-founder and director of economic policy at Veda Partners, and she told me no lawmaker wants to risk losing votes from seniors.
Cutting from senior citizens is a big problem for politicians because senior citizens vote the most. So even raising the retirement age is something that's very difficult to even broach the subject, even if that were to be phased in over 10 or even 20 years.
And only about a quarter of the budget is for discretionary spending, and that's things that could be cut. The rest goes to interest payments on the debt, which of course are also mandatory.
Okay, so let's talk about the sliver of discretionary spending that in theory could actually be trimmed. What types of programs are we talking about there?
So these are expenditures Congress votes on in the spending bills they're supposed to pass and send on to the White House each year for the president to sign. These bills fund government agencies like the Education and Agriculture Departments and the FAA. But almost half of this discretionary spending goes to the Defense Department, and that's according to the Peterson Foundation. Pentagon spending is really hard to cut because it provides jobs in many congressional districts, on military bases, and in factories producing parts for planes and weapons.
Well, President-elect Trump has talked about rolling back spending in the Inflation Reduction Act, which would be for green energy programs that he disagrees with. Is that possible?
Not without a court fight, Sabri. The Constitution gives Congress the power of the purse, and the president's ability to impound money is limited by law. And also, Henrietta Treyz told me, 70% of the federal spending in the Inflation Reduction Act goes to red states.
So there are a whole host of senators from North Dakota, from Idaho, from South Dakota that are exposed to wind, solar, batteries, all kinds of components of the Inflation Reduction Act.
So, of course, lawmakers representing those states in Congress are not going to be in favor of cutting spending that helps their districts.
All right. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
U.S. markets are closed today for the Thanksgiving holiday. They reopen tomorrow, Black Friday, at 9:30 Wall Street time.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Fortune, dedicated to empowering leaders to make intelligent business decisions and delivering unbiased reporting. Subscriptions, newsletters, and more at Fortune.com.
Older Americans are living longer than before, on average. That means there is more demand for long-term care services. A Wells Fargo report from earlier this year, for example, estimated that 1.7 million more people will need some form of elder care 10 years from now. The problem is the elder care industry is already having trouble hiring and keeping enough workers. So, could AI and automation step in? A new study of robots in nursing homes in Japan, which faces similar challenges, suggests yes. Marketplace's senior economics contributor Chris Farrell in St. Paul has been taking a closer look and joins us now. Hi, Chris.
Good morning.
Well, can I ask, what kinds of things do these robots do? I mean, are these robots actually helping people out of bed and walk down the hall, or what do they do?
So, yeah, some of them is helping people walk down the hall. Some of it is they'll interact with people, perhaps sing songs, and helping people out of bed.
Wow. So what kind of conclusions did these economists draw from looking at the data of how these robots worked out?
So it's essentially a suggestive story about the positive impact of automation at work, and they found that robots are largely complementary to the elder care job done by care workers and nursing staff. Now, robots took over some tasks, but automation allowed workers to spend more time and effort on the kind of caregiving tasks that benefit from, human touch and empathy. And the researcher found that productivity, revenue, quality, and quantity of care improved after nursing homes adopted robots. Overall employment went up, although there was a slight decline in full-time care workers. Quit rates went down.
I understand that you have actually seen these kinds of robots in action here in the U.S.
That's right. And the memorable one is when I visited Mom in 2019 at Knollwood Military Retirement Community in Washington, D.C. And she introduced me to Stevie 2. It was a very friendly-looking robot created at Trinity College, Dublin. Now, Stevie is what they call a socially assistive robot with artificial intelligence features. And the robot was nearly 5 feet tall, and it sang a very nice version of Danny Boy.
Oh, my gosh. What did your mom think of that robot?
I was shocked. She was impressed by the robot, although she did get annoyed at herself for apologizing to Stevie when she got in Stevie's way. But my mom wasn't a fan of new technology. Believe me. But she really said that, in the community, Stevie showed genuine promise at supplementing workers at their job and in interacting with community residents.
How far, based on this, do you think robots could go in the service sector?
So I think they're going to go really far. Robots, they are spreading already into the service sector, even businesses like healthcare and elder care, retail and hospitality, and logistics, just to name a few. And the International Federation of Robots says interest in professional service robots is largely driven by staff shortages and lack of applicants. So, one implication of this study is that the fear of job loss with robots may be exaggerated, but more important, the opportunity for greater job satisfaction and customer experience with robots, I think it's tantalizing.
Marketplace's senior economics contributor Chris Farrell, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
In New York, I'm Sabri Benishore with the Marketplace Morning Report. From all of us at Marketplace, have a happy Thanksgiving. From APM, American Public Media.